In this video, I'm going to be doing a beginner walkthrough of clay.com. I'm going to show you exactly how you use the platform, what the platform can be used for, and show you a beginner-friendly example that you can use inside of your business to help generate new leads, enrich the leads that you already have with more data, use AI to personalize the leads inside of clay.com, and then also push it to an email sequencing tool so you can send emails out to the leads you generated to help generate new opportunities for your business. For a little bit of context, my name is Matt. I run an agency where I send hundreds of thousands of cold emails per month, and I use tools like Clay every single day to help generate more leads for my customers. So I'm hopefully going to share some of the experience and knowledge I have after using Clay a lot for you if you're just starting out. So without further ado, let's dive straight in. All right, so diving into Clay, I'm going to be showing you a beginner walkthrough. The reason why I wanted to make this video is honestly because I get so many people coming to me and asking, hey Matt, what do I even use Clay for? Or maybe they just say, hey, I want to figure out what Clay does, or I know I should be using it, but I don't know how to use it. And so the point of this video is to actually walk through and show you tangibly some very beginner friendly workflows that you can use inside of Clay so you can see what it does and see if it makes sense for you to use in your business. Honestly, there's lots of things you can use Clay for. If you check out their site, you can see the three core things that they say here are having AI agents, building flexible workflows, and go-to-market stack consolidation. So basically, being able to get data from their platform, being able to make custom workflows, consolidate your tech stack into one singular tool, or instead of having 20 different tools, you have 2 different tools, Clay being one of them. So I'm going to be walking through and showing you that. So if you want to use Clay, you can go to their website, description below. I have an affiliate link. If you sign up using that link and make a plan, you get 3,000 free credits. So if you're considering signing up, you should use that link. But diving into Clay, this is the dashboard you're going to see whenever you log in. I'm going to shrink my face a little bit so you can see a little bit more, but this is the main dashboard. If you log in and you make a fresh account, you're not going to see any of these. These are tables. And so what tables are inside of Clay is kind of the core functionality of Clay. This is where you upload data and where you can manipulate the data. So I'm going to show you first how to create a new table. Then I'm going to show you a workflow that I built in Clay that is very beginner friendly. And then we're going to build that out together so you can actually see the step-by-step process of building out a Clay table. So if you want to build a table inside of Clay or do anything, you just press this new button. You can build a table, and then you can either import data from a different data provider so you can manipulate it either through HubSpot, Salesforce, you can manually upload stuff, or you can find people natively inside of Clay. And then once you do that, let's say you upload data from another provider inside of Clay, this is what's going to look like. I uploaded data from Apollo in this example here, just to show you an example of what that looks like. So I uploaded first name, title, company name, email, employees, all this data. And then I'm using Clay to actually manipulate, enrich, and add more data to the data we already had so that it can be useful inside of an outreach campaign and so that we can actually leverage this to book more meetings for my business or for someone else's business. So in this use case, I'm going to show you an example of what you can use Clay for. So like I said at the beginning of the video, there's 3 kind of core things you can use it. Let's just say AI agents and data, workflows, and stack consolidation. So I'm going to show you how we kind of did this in this example table. This is a very beginner friendly table and what I would say is very useful to most people and to show you some of the power of Clay. So we took this data from Apollo, and one thing that happens whenever you grab a large chunk of data from any data provider is you're going to have gaps in data. So you can see we exported this data from Apollo and you can see that it got about half the people's emails, but didn't get all the people's emails. And so if we want to make an exhaustive lead list, then we want to get more emails from the existing lead list we have. So this could either come from Apollo, your HubSpot data, or whatever data you're pulling from. You will have some emails, but you might not have all the emails. And so one first example of what we can do inside of Clay here, and by the way, in a second, I'm going to show you how we can build this all out from scratch. The first thing that I did in this table is I used a tool called Prospio to enrich data that is missing. So in this case, I had it only run if there was no email that exists. So for all the people that don't have emails, go and try and find their emails. So we use a data provider called Prospio to do this. Now, this is the example going back to Clay's core stuff, flexible workflows, and stack consolidation. So instead of having to go grab this data, then upload it to Prospio, then upload it to the 8 other tools we're about to use here, we can do this all in one central place. And then also we can do this in a workflow that is copy and pastable. So we can just run tons of leads through this once we have this built. So the first thing we did is we grabbed our core set of data, then we want to add more data on top of it through a tool like Prospio. And you can do this with any number of tools. There's a bunch of different providers inside of Clay. Then I merged this data. So I said, hey, go to the first data column here, merge it with the data we got in the second data column, and make it one comprehensive column. So you can see here, after we ran this, we were able to get, you can see in this case, my face is blocking up to row 15, but you can see we got 1, 2, 3, 4 more emails out of this data that's missing. So we have more data coverage. And this allows us to, again, have more emails that we can reach out to. So that's one use case, is just enriching data. Again, we can go to Prospio directly, go to their website, sign up, make an account and do this, but that just makes it more complicated and makes it so that we have to sign up for all these different providers. The next thing I did here is if we want to use this, for example, in a cold email outreach campaign, which is what our firm does, we go ahead and validate the emails. The reason why is if we don't validate the emails, our bounce rates are going to be really high. It's going to cause a lot of email deliverability issues, and it's going to make our life really hard. Then again, automatically do inside of Clay is call an API and then validate the email. So Clay has some native data validation tools that they have in their platform, but you can also call APIs outside of Clay's platform. So I like to use a tool called listment.io. And so what I did here is I called the API provider. I said, only run if we have an email that we can use, and then validate it and get a status of what their validation is. So now, number one, we have the data, then we got more data inside of Clay, then we validated the data inside of Clay. And then the next thing I did here is I want to see if the company was a good fit. So in our example, or in this example, we have a bunch of leads that are categorized as commercial real estate in this example. So we have a bunch of commercial real estate leads. We want to see if they are brokers or if they're developers or if they're raising funds. Let's just use that as an example. So whenever you go into a big data platform like Apollo or ZoomInfo or Cognizant or your own HubSpot, your own CRM, you have tons of data in there and it might be categorized very poorly. So in the case of Apollo or ZoomInfo, it's not necessarily categorized poorly. It might not just be categorized specifically as specific as you'd like it to be. So the example of Apollo, they have a category called commercial real estate, but that doesn't say if they're a commercial real estate broker, if they develop real estate, if they restore real estate, if they're like a contractor or a general contractor. It doesn't really give much context of what they do specifically in commercial real estate. And so if I want to run a targeted cold email campaign, then if we just reach out to everyone who's in commercial real estate and we only want to reach out to the brokers, for example, you're going to be speaking a completely different language if you're reaching out to a developer or to a general contractor or whoever else. So the reason why we're running this flow is so that we can clean the data and make sure it's relevant for our cold outreach campaign. So what I did is I had an AI agent get deployed onto each one of their websites. So you can see here, I went in and I said, hey, go to their website, tell me everything they do. And it'll output this huge paragraph on everything that this company does. Hey, they're in the hospitality industry. They do a diverse range of services for hotel owners, investors, blah, 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 blah. And then I ran another AI prompt to say, hey, go read that summary and tell me if they're a good fit for our cold email campaign. So let's say in our example, we only want to reach out to brokers. We say, hey, go read the summary and tell me if this is a brokerage firm. If they are a brokerage firm, output true. If they're not a brokerage firm, output false. And then if they pass all these checks, so again, we took this data from scratch. We grabbed this data, we enrich it with more data, we validated it. For the people that were valid and had emails, we said, hey, is this company fit by looking at the company summary? And then if they were a fit, then we push it into a sending tool. So in this case, I'm using Smart Lead, but if you're using Instantly, if you're using a custom tool, you can use an API call. You can do this entire workflow completely end to end inside of one tool. So this is me just outlining what Clay can do. And again, from the beginner's perspective, of what it looks like and what this tool is capable of doing. And so now I want to actually build out this table from complete scratch to show you how you can actually do this inside of Clay, because once you figure out how to do this, Clay can be a very, very powerful tool for your business. I'm just going to pop in and create a new table from scratch. Like I said, in this use case, I just grabbed this data from Apollo. So you can either come to Clay with your own data, or you can scrape it natively through the platform. So if you go into this table function, like I said, you can either find people directly through here, or you can find people directly through Clay. So they have this find people search. You can use Ocean. You can use their Google Maps scraper. That's another option if you're reaching out to local businesses. You can use all these different tools. You can have this Apollo integration, or like I said, you can just upload from CSV. So in in this case, I'm just going to be using Clay's native data here, which personally I'm not as big of a fan of. I think that other data tools have a little bit higher quality data than their native find people feature. That was just my experience after using it a couple times. So your mileage may vary, and I only use it in one case, so maybe this could be useful for you. But let's say in this case, we want to reach out to CEOs. We want to get a list of CEOs, and we want to get people who are in the art and design industry, and we want people who are in the United States. Again, just doing this is like a super simple sample. And then we're going to also look here. We can filter by language. We can do all kinds of different things here, but I'm just going to preview the search here. And so you can see it says that there's about 12,000 people that we can reach out is in their search criteria are in, what did we say here? They're a C-suite in the arts and design industry. And so we're just going to import this into a new table. And then I'm going to, let's see here. I can also limit it. So I'm actually going to limit it just to 50 people. The reason why I'm doing this is just for the sake of this video. So this table doesn't take forever to load. So I'm going to import these people into a new table. And then I'm just going to leave this blank and just continue for free again, so we can build this out from scratch. All right. So you can see here that we just imported the data from inside of Clay. So I went ahead and tried to hide some of the data to hopefully make my editor's life a little bit easier, but I hid the full name and the last name. So again, it's just more anonymous looking, but you can see here, we have first names, we have company names, we have job titles, locations, we have the company websites, and then we have LinkedIn profiles. So let's just assume that this is our baseline data set, and we want to do something like what we did here. So we want to grab their email. We want to see if it's valid. Then we also want to see if they're a good fit for our campaign. So in our case, let's say we want to reach out to people who run art companies or whatever. So we'll just build this table as we go along, and I'll just show you how you can build a list, grab the emails, validate the emails to see if they exist, and then be able to push it directly into your sending tool. So we're going to go here. Step one, we're going to grab the email. So we're going to go in here, and you can either inside of Clay use a waterfall. So in this example, I only use one data provider to see if their email existed. Now inside of Clay, you can actually use a waterfall, which is like using a bunch of different data providers. I have a separate integration outside of, or an integration with Clay with Prospeo specifically, because I use Prospeo a lot. And if you use a integration outside of Clay, it can save you money with how their credit system works. So in this case, I just use Prospeo for my sake because I want to save money on credits and use my own integrations. But if you don't care, then you can use the waterfall feature inside of Clay. And so you can see here, if I go and put business email, you can see this work email waterfall section here. And so what this is going to do is run through all these different data providers to see if they can find an email that we can use. And so you can see it'll ask for the name to input, and then it also validates the emails for you. Now I like to use a different validator, which is via a API call. And so you can use Clay's native one. I'm actually not going to do it just to show you how you can run stuff using their API feature. Also, I have a separate standalone video on how to use API calls inside of Clay. So if you want to watch that, there should be a link somewhere about where you are in this video right now. But anyways, I'm going to actually not validate the emails. So you can see here, you can press this remove provider button. And so I'm going to just run through, let's just say, for example, I'm going to run through 3 different tools, or I'm actually just going to run through 2 different tools. I'm going to run through Lead Magic and I'm going to run through Prospeo. And again, I could just remove Lead Magic. If I want to make it one-to-one like this table that I built here, then I could just remove Lead Magic and just do Prospeo. But I'm going to run it through 2, so you can run this yourself. This is a different use case if you want to run it through multiple providers. So we're going to press save, and we're going to run this for 10 rows. And so you can see here, it's going to start running and start finding these emails here. So you can see a couple of these had missing input. That's because they were missing company websites for us to use, but the other ones had the company websites and all the data provided. And so you can see here, I just, again, scrunch this up to try and hide the data a little bit more so YouTube doesn't look at this video funny. But anyways, I just ran this for 10 people. And so you can see it found emails for about half of them. If I want to get the most exhaustive list possible, I run this waterfall through all the different providers I showed you, but in the name of keeping this video simple and trying to replicate this table, and then also trying to keep this short and not using a bunch of credits here, we're just going to stick with these 5 emails. And I'm actually going to run this column for all the potential rows in this table so you can watch it run as we go along here. So number 1, we check the box of what we did here in this example. We had our list of people and we grabbed their emails. Now after this, we're going to want to validate it. So Clay again has native validation tools. If you type email validation, they should have a bunch of tools. So you can see find email, email, debounce, enrichly, hunter, lead magic, all these different tools. Now, after testing a bunch of different tools, I like using enrichment specifically. The reason why is because they can validate catch-alls and they do it at a very high accuracy rate from my experience of doing it. But since Clay does not have a native integration, you can use an API call. Actually, let me zoom out here for a second. In the sake of keeping this a beginner-friendly video, what I'd recommend if you're just starting out is use one of Clay's native integrations. The reason why is because using an external provider through an API call can be a little bit more complicated. Again, I have another video that's going to be linked here in the description or somewhere on how to use APIs inside of Clay, but I want to show you what specifically I do. And if you want to go through the hassle of figuring it out, you can watch the other video here. But I'm going to go inside of Clay and type API. And so I'm going to run an external API. For the people who aren't very technical, an API call is basically you're able to ping another software without actually loading up the software and going into the user interface. You're able to just run a call externally. And so inside here, you can see there's all this technical stuff of how to set up the API call. Now I have a template since I use enrichment a lot. So I'm going to go over here. So I'm just going to click into this and I'm going to press apply template. And so now I can just preload this template with the stuff that I already have here and just press save and run. So I'm going to run this for 10 rows. And so you can see here, the validation just ran. And so you can see it ran for the first 10 rows. Now you can see I also just made a mistake here where I did not exclude the cells that don't have email. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a second here. But you can see you can run an external call inside of Clay. And then let me click into this really quick here. You can see the results. And so you can see the email and then you can see the status. So I'm going to add this as another column and I'm going to call this enrichment results. And so if I just want to reach out to the valid emails, I'm going to go ahead and do that here. Now, what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to show you how you can run a conditional formula. So it only runs if the email exists. So I'm going to press edit column and then I'm going to scroll all the way down here. This is a conditional formula section where you can set specific conditions to which this cell will run on. So we can say, hey, if certain thing is true, run the cell. If other things aren't true, don't run the cell. And so you don't need to be a coding wizard. You can just use their use AI function here and make a conditional formula. So in this case, I want to go and tell Clay, hey, only run this validation formula if the email exists. So if an email doesn't exist, I don't want to be using my enrichment credits, wasting it on nothing. So inside Clay, if you use a slash function, it'll pull up all the different cells that you have inside of your table. So I'm going to go over here to this work email section here and press work email. So this is the final column that we have where it has all the emails. You can see it's hidden here, but hopefully you can see where my mouse is. Only run this if this work email cell actually has data. So we can say has data in it, or we can say is not empty. So only run this validation flow if this email even exists. We're going to press generate formula. And so you can see here, it gives you a preview of what this looks like. And so we're going to say output is correct. And then we're going to save and I'm going to run this for all 50 rows here. And so you can see now it's not going to run or waste any credits here for the emails that don't actually have any data in it. So you can see it's running all the data. It's saying valid. Again, this is why I like Lint is because it can actually run catch-all validation at a very accurate rate. And so now we have all of our data here as I showed in this previous table. So step one, we got our people. We found the people that we can reach out to. Then we grab their emails. Now we check to see if the emails are valid. And then next thing we're going to do is grab a company summary and see if they're a fit. Now you can actually do this all in one step. You can say, hey, go to this website and tell me if they're a good fit or not. The reason why I like to grab a summary first is for a couple reasons. The first reason is because it allows you to run multiple workflows. So let's say I want to run another AI prompt and say, for example, like, hey, write a 3-word summary of what this company does so that I can use in a cold email. If I don't have this company summary written out and I don't have this work already done, then I'm going to have to rerun a whole new section saying like, hey, go scrape this website data again. It just makes it really easy that if I want to go back and reference any of the website data in the future, that I already have it written down. So that's why I like to do it. We can make this one step where we can say, hey, go visit this website and tell us if they're a fit or not. Or what I like to do is separate it out into 2 steps. The second reason also is because in the name of saving Clay credits, I like to use like a cheaper AI model for this run because it's relatively simple. It's just saying, hey, go visit this website and tell me what they do instead of a more complicated function like, hey, go do this complicated interpretation, or hey, tell me if this company is a fit or not. The reason why is because it might take a little bit more computing power to do that accurately to say like, hey, if they're a fit or not. Anyways, I'll just show you an example of what that looks like and I'll show you how to do it both ways. So going back to this table here, we're going to see if these companies are a fit or not. And so let's just use an example. I'm actually going to do a very simple example. We're just going to ask the AI if these companies are B2B or B2C. So if you don't know what that is, B2B, they sell business or they sell to other businesses. B2C means that they sell to consumers. You can see this use case, we're going to want to scrape their website. And so now we're going to select a model. The model is basically which type of AI do we want to use to scrape their website. So they have more powerful models that use more credits, and they have less powerful ones that are cheaper. Or what you can also do, and what I'd recommend, is integrating your own keys. So you can see inside of Clay here, they can either bill you their credits, or you can integrate your own open API key. The reason why this is useful is it's way cheaper if you just do it yourself. Again, I have a video on how to integrate stuff inside of Clay. It's on this channel. It's how to use APIs inside of Clay. And so you can watch that if you want to figure that out. But basically, I'm just going to use the GPT-4o model here, or actually we're going to do the cheaper one. We're going to use the 4o mini model. The reason why is because it allows us to save some costs and be able to do this at scale in a cost-effective way. So again, going back to our other table here, we're just going to have it go to their website and give us a summary of what the company does, or we can directly ask it if they are B2B or B2C. But I'm going to do the summary example, and I'll show you why in a second. So I want you to visit this website, and I'm going to put /website. So I'm going to feed it company domain. I want you to visit this website and give me an exhaustive summary of what the company does in as many paragraphs as possible. And I'm telling it as many paragraphs as possible so that it gives me a huge summary that we can pull a lot of data from. So we're going to press save. Again, I'm going to run a conditional formula that I'm only going to run this for the emails that are valid or are catch-all valid. This is so that we don't waste credits on invalid emails. So I want only run this if /listment results are either valid or catch-all valid. We're going to generate a formula here. Again, Clay does a really good job of generating all the formulas for you. And so we're just going to press save and run all of this. And so you should see here, it's only going to run whenever the results equals valid or catch all valid. And so you can see in this example, it says catch all invalid, meaning an email that we can't reach out to. It's not going to run that here. So we're going to wait for this to run for a second. And so you can see here, it just ran all of this. And so now we have these giant company summaries that we can use to pull more data from. And so if I want to just run the B2B or B2C check or whatever criteria you want to check by in this, all in one go, I could just go back here and do the same thing over again. And instead of saying, hey, give me the company summary, I could say, and tell me if they're B2B or if they're B2C. Now, again, I can make this prompt more robust, but I'm going to show you why I do this in a separate step here. So what I'm going to do is take this company summary. Again, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to press add enrichment, or I'm going to go over here, press add column and use AI. Now, the reason why I like to do it separately is so that I can use a better model. So this GPT-4o mini model that I just ran, if you can integrate your own credits here, you can see that it's 0.00126. So you can see it's less than a penny to run this. It's a tenth of a penny, in fact. And if I want to run this exact same model on a higher quality model, this might cost a penny, 2 pennies, 5 pennies, 10 pennies, which at scale can add up really quick. And so I want to use that higher level of computing power, but not waste it on doing all the web scraping and just have it do the interpretation part. So instead of going and scraping and finding all the data and burning a bunch of credits that way, I'm just going to use the advanced model on interpreting if this is a good fit or not. So I'm going to go back here, press add column. I'm going to press use AI, and then I'm going to go over here to the non-web scraper version. And then I'm going to use Anthropic. I like using 3.5 Sonnet because it's a higher quality model. It costs a little bit more, but since we already did all the dirty work of scraping it and doing all the more computationally intensive stuff, I'm going to use the higher computation model to do the interpretation part. So hopefully that makes sense. Basically, we're using dumber AI to go do all the high intensity work, and then we're using the smarter AI to do the more important work here. So I'm going to say, I'm going to feed you a company description, and I want you to tell me if the company is a B2B company or a B2C company. If they are a B2B company, then output B2B. And if they're a B2C company, output B2C. Only output B2B or B2C, nothing else. So I'll explain this prompt here in a second. Again, this is pretty straightforward. You're probably smart enough to understand all this stuff. The only caveat or the important part that I want to call out here is to show that I'm saying only output B2B or B2C, because if I just say, hey, tell me if it's a B2B or a B2C company, it's going to give me these super long outputs, which makes it harder for us to do the filtering step and say, hey, only move it to the next step if it says B2B or B2C. So anyways, I'm just going to have it output B2B or B2C. And again, I'm only going to have this run if the company summary exists. That way we're not wasting a bunch of credits here. So we're going to use AI, only run this if /summary exists. And then we're going to generate the formula here. Output is correct. We're going to save and run this for 10 rows to make sure this looks good. Oh, looks like I made a mistake. This is just to show you that everyone makes mistakes here. So I forgot to feed it the actual company summaries. So I'm going to say, here is the company summary. This is why also it's good to run it in small chunks. That way you don't burn a bunch of credits if you make a mistake like I did. So I'm going to feed it the summary here. I'm going to press company summary and I'm going to feed it the giant response, and then we're going to run it. So we're going to wait for this to run again, another couple seconds. And so you can see B2B, B2B, B2C, B2C. So this is just a good example of how you can filter leads. Again, the way that you might use this specific to your business might vary. So I'm just showing you in this case to qualify if it's B2B or B2C. I qualified it whether it's a brokerage firm or not, or if you run a consulting firm that only helps phone manufacturers, you can say, hey, only output true if they're a phone manufacturer, output false if they're not. So just an example. Again, you can just tailor this prompt to however you'd like. I'm going to save and I'm going to run this for all of the rows that don't have errors. And let's say in our case, we only want to reach out to B2B companies. And so we want to push this into a cold email campaign. So the last step here, we're going to push this into a cold email campaign. So I use Smart Lead for my cold email campaign. So I'm going to go over here to add enrichment. And so they have a native integration with Smart Lead, or you can use Instantly. And I think they have a few other sending platforms, but I'm going to go over here into Smart Lead and I'm going to add this lead to the campaign. And I'm going to do, again, the same thing. Only run this if / company type is B2B. So that way we're filtering out all of the B2C leads and so that it can run in our campaign. So we're going to try this, and then it's going to ask us to assign a campaign. And so I made a campaign called dummy campaign for us to use here. And so then we can map all of our data here. So we can have first name, last name. We'd include the website. So if I want to include this in our Smart Lead campaign, I can put the company domain here. I can put their LinkedIn profile, and then I'm going to save and run this for 10 rows. And so hopefully if I didn't mess anything up, it should only run for these ones. You can see it said didn't add lead here because we didn't have setting checked. So you can see here inside of the settings section, you can have it allow leads that exist in other campaigns, or you can have it allow leads from the community bounce list. This is a Smart Lead specific feature. I'm just going to tick these two boxes just again for the sake of this video. And so you can see here, it's going to run. And for all the people that are B2B and are valid and have emails and are a good fit will be added to this campaign. And so this is how you can automatically run a campaign at scale, grab a bunch of data, run it to campaigns. And then let's say I want to scrape another 100 people. I can just run it through the same workflow and have it add to Smart Lead. So this is just one example of how you can use Clay. This is a beginner friendly workflow. Again, we're doing all the basic stuff inside of Clay that can be applied to almost anyone. Whatever you're doing inside of Clay, you're probably going to be grabbing emails. You're probably going to be validating. You're probably going to be checking to see if they are good on a fit level. And then you're probably going to be adding them to a campaign. Now, again, depending on what you're using this for, you might throw this into your CRM. You might be validating phone numbers. You can also grab phone number data. If you go to this add enrichment section, there is tons and tons and tons of stuff here. You can check to see if they have funding. You can grab their Instagram account. You can grab their GitHub. You can grab a bunch of different data in here. But I just want to make something that's more beginner friendly and something that can more realistically be applied to almost everyone watching this video, because a lot of people ask me, how do I use Clay and what can they use Clay for? The truth is you can use Clay for a lot of different things. This is just a very beginner example. Now, if you wanted to, let's say, grab product details or something that's very specific to the cold email campaign you're running, you can also probably do that inside of Clay. But this is just a general use case that most people will probably find valuable. So again, if you got value from this video, feel free to check out my other videos. If you want to work with my agency, you can check the link in the description below. We can help you set up a cold email system, help you with Clay tables, help you book meetings for your business, and help you with a lot of different sales automation stuff. So you can check the link in the description below. Appreciate you a ton, and go check out some of the other videos on this channel. I'll see you.